Have you ever looked online to find some options to support your tomatoes? There are what feels like a million different options. So today I'm showing you just 3 options of how I choose to support my different types of tomatoes. So my cherry tomatoes, my determinate tomatoes, and my indeterminate tomatoes. And we'll walk through all the different pros and cons and why I picked one over the other for the different types. So that is what I'm walking you through here today. I'm Steffi, I'm a home gardener here in Attleboro, Massachusetts, is Zone 6, and I'd just love to take you along for the ride, so welcome to my channel. So the 3 options we're going to discuss today is a low and lean trellis option for the indeterminate tomato, in really pretty arched solution for the wild cherry tomatoes who are always growing like crazy, and then last but not least a cage option for the paste tomatoes who are getting really bushy and stocky and loaded with fruits. So let's quickly discuss the lower and lean trellis option. This is usually an option which you use for tomatoes to really have them grow vertically up a string onto a trellis. So I have here my beautiful copper trellis. If you're interested how we built this one, I can link this video here below. But the trellis is really what is key to this one, because this is where we put the string over. The term lower and lean comes from like commercial growing, where they actually have on the top tomato hooks, which give you more string over time. So they grow tomatoes over like a large stretch of like 10, 14 feet up. And when they reach the top in greenhouses, for example, they can give it a little bit more leeway and lean the tomato plant so that they can extend the trellis option like that. I've tried that over here. My length for the tomato trellis is not long enough for them to be flexible to lean. I also think our wind conditions here are not in favor of that, so I think there's more a greenhouse option or for areas where you have no wind whatsoever. But growing them up a string works here really, really well. So I will skip the tomato hook this year because it didn't serve me any purpose and it took some valuable space on top away. So I will only put the twine over the trellis, and that is where we will put the tomatoes on. And when we look in my bed, I have here 3 determinate tomatoes, which we'll talk in a second to look at, because the dang groundhogs on the other side of the fence bit and had a bite of them. But luckily they didn't take on my determinate ones, which I have here. One big advantage of growing them vertically is that you can just pack more in a space. I have here 6 indeterminate like heirloom tomatoes, like a Cherokee Purple, Black Crim, and a few other, versus only 3 determinate, which will grow in the cages, which I'll show you in a second as well. So what materials do we need to make this happen? Some twine. I'll prefer like just some plain masonry twine, which you get in any home improvement store or on Amazon. I'll have everything linked below as per usual, which has held up really, really well for me for all occasions. I use it for my tomato trellising. I use it for corralling my cut flowers later on. There's always really great value to have that one around. And then some tomato clips. They will last me probably for the next 10 years, but they only come in bags like that. And always some landscape staples. There's barely any project in my garden which doesn't involve landscaping staples one way or the other. And then just some scissors to get the twine cut. And I need a ladder to make it up there. So please use caution, be an adult, make sure you do it safe. I'm actually taking my flip-flops off. I don't think that's otherwise the safest. Also not good with height, so that's pretty much as high as I can go. So and I just measure the twine going to the ground. Oh, I should have gotten some sharper scissors. And then I'll do all 3 right away. So what I typically do is I'll take the landscape staple, push it down tight, and then I'll just make a knot around it. but it will hold itself later on with the strength of the tomato itself and the clip in the bottom. It works really, really well. So what is now important with those tomato clips is to put the twine in the middle to have it really latch onto it. So once you put it in the middle, like here, nothing will move anymore. So we can put this one here, and this is now perfectly supported. And as it grows taller, you just put a clip every like 12 inches or so in it. And you also start pruning the bottom leaves off as you go. So that is the only downside of this trellis system. You want to keep it to 1 liter, which goes up the string, and you want to prune everything out left and right, minus the fruit, of course. But that works really, really well. And I always have here a little container with extra clips. So when I see something what I want to clip in, that I have clips at hand. Great, so this were the Determinate tomatoes. You can see here we have 6 strings going up. And you will be surprised how quickly they will grow up those strings. We'll do probably a little bit of a video on how to harvest and how to maintain them, but yeah, that is really a very, very easy way to make the most of the vertical growing space as well. Next up are the cherry tomatoes growing over the arch. So let's talk about the cherry tomatoes and why I choose to grow them over an arch instead of anything else. They grow fast, they love to throw a lot of suckers, so I don't like to prune them. I just like to let them go and just give them general direction on where to go. So ever since I got this beautiful squash tunnel, that's the Titan squash tunnel from Gardener Supply. Again, I've linked everything below. So on one side I grow my cherry tomatoes. I have 3 on the bottom, and on the other side I grow pole beans and my cucumbers and squashes, and they always grow up and populate this full arch throughout the summer and meet upward and intermingle eventually. But this works very, very well. It's low maintenance and it's still easy to pick the fruit. I'm tall, I can still reach the top here, so for that reason I really love them to just let them grow as they want to, and with very, very minimal pruning. One thing which you do quickly together, as this is now the 3rd season in a row, what I always do and what I recommend doing whenever you have any type of trellising which you're repurposing from year to year, to give it a good clean. So we're going to take some paper towels and some bleach solution and just wipe that quickly off. So I always battle with some diseases later on in the season, typically blight. So I don't want to introduce last year's problems into this year's garden. So for that reason, we clean this off quickly. You can also see there is no netting around it at the moment because I already took that netting off and soaked it in bleach solution as well. So that is ready to go over again. But I want to wipe the structure as well. As I mentioned, just plain Clorox bleach solution, some paper towels, and some gloves because I don't like to have it on my hands straight. I hope we're done before the rain starts here. The weather has been interesting lately. Doesn't have to be perfect, but everything we get off now will save us later. All right, that was fast. So as I mentioned, I soaked that netting already in bleach solution as well last weekend. So this is good to go. We just need to put it over again. This looks a little bit more used over the years, but it still works perfectly fine. So I'll just, and as I mentioned, I do that every year in the beginning of the season. With all the nooks and crannies on here, it's always, that is always a little fiddly to put it back on. But again, you do that once a year, so it's not that bad. this trellis fits really, really well, or this netting fits really well without any issues. So it's really easy to put that on and off. And here you can see my 3 cherry tomatoes. If you're curious what kind of varieties I grow, I have linked another video with all my tomato varieties. They look a little bit squished and sad right now because they're in this small space. They will grow up very, very fast in here. And what I do is I'll just clip them in with tomato clips when they grow larger into that netting here as well, like I did it with the trellis. This works really, really well. And then I just let them go up there. I put a few landscape staples on the bottom so the netting is secured on the bottom. But that is pretty much how I let my cherry tomatoes grow up in wild. This is clearly I would say, one of my easiest and low maintenance solution of growing tomatoes. And I get so many cherry tomatoes. I would argue 3 plants for a family of 5 are way too many. But I dehydrate a lot of my cherry tomatoes and turn them into salsa. So I'm looking forward to swimming in cherry tomatoes later that year. And then for my last varieties, my paste tomatoes, I use those Garden Supply tomato towers, the double ones, which are probably like 4 feet tall or so. They are really, really great. They look flimsy when you get them and when you put them together, but once you put them into the soil, they hold up really, really well. And I fit here 3 of those in it. And they provide the best support for my determinant tomatoes, so my paste tomatoes. Paste tomatoes typically are the ones who fruit very large or very heavy in one big swoop, so you have enough to can those ones. So they need a lot of support. You also don't trim or don't prune them. So for that reason, they really need support, which helps them to be on all levels really, really well supported. And that tomato cage does it. So I have 3 here for those ones. In the Vigo bed, I typically have 2 on the outside and then be a little bit cheap and put some stakes in between those for the ones in the middle to do a little bit of an space optimized and money optimized option to just have them with stakes basically extended. But that worked very well for me last year, and I will do that again this year. So before it starts to rain, because it feels like thunderstorms right now and I'm such a muggy, sweaty mess, I hope this video was interesting to you. It's really, really simple with those 3 varieties to support those 3 different types of tomatoes. Let me know what you use or if you have any questions. Otherwise, subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.